Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Popcultured with Socially Devoted. I am one half of your host, Dana Giacovello.
And I am Tommy Drossi, also known as Tico71. And this is our guest, Sean Hudock. You may know him. He's an actor and he's an activist. Go ahead, Damon.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Great. So, we're going to start out with first question, and it's about, I know you have done acting in, film, television, and theater. Do you have a preference of one over the other? I know some actors feel it like theater is their home because it's such a different genre and it's very different than working in front of a camera. And was this something like these projects that you're doing in the entertainment industry that you're working on? And is this something you always wanted to do, like always, or was it something you kind of fell into later on in life?
Um, Absolutely. I feel like I've always wanted to be an entertainer in some way. I've always wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I've always wanted to be an actor, a storyteller, an active part of this community of artists. When I was very young, I used to put on magic shows for my family, like extremely, extremely young, and I have no idea where that came from. And my family still like jokes around with me. Like I would orchestrate these I would spend so much time on creating magic tricks and like doing all this research, and then at every family function there would be this like just massive spurt of energy from me that would just orchestrate this entire show where I would put on magic tricks for the family. And at first the family was like, oh gosh, here we go, we're gonna have to sit through another magic show. But after a while it sort of became this thing like Sean is going to do a magic show for us, and I have no idea where that came from at all, except for this thing that was just kind of innately brewing in me that was either unfocused energy that who knows where it came from, or just kind of some inspiration that was in my blood from somewhere. And then that sort of became tapped a little bit when I was very young. An actor named Paul Rudd came into my life, not the current Paul Rudd, but an actor who was very active in theater and film and television in the 70s and 80s. And I became very good friends with his son and sort of by proxy Paul. And Paul was a very sort of well-known classical actor, a lot of Shakespeare. And just by, spending time with his son, I got to spend time with Paul, and Paul introduced me to Shakespeare. And that was the thing that sort of unlocked the key to what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, which was Shakespeare and be an actor and do whatever I could to channel this energy that was started with these crazy magic shows. And there were no fireworks. There were obviously no pyrotechnics at all. Really dinky stuff. But and at the end of every magic show, I would ask people to clap. And so now when I see like family members, they're like, clap, clap.
That's adorable. That's great. A lot of people and a lot of actors that I've spoken to have said the same thing. They used to do those things at such a young age and all this stuff. I used to actually do that myself as well, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I don't think my parents knew what to do with me. Like, they just had no idea. They tried to put me in baseball. I was a swimmer for a while. I played water polo, and I was just always gravitating back towards theater. I did my first play when I was in fourth grade with Paul. It was actually Shakespeare. It was A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I have just been very, very lucky to continue making this a career, being an active part of this community.
Great, that's awesome. Would you say that you prefer theater over film and television? Is that like your home?
It totally is my home. Uh, I go for long periods where, like, if I'm in the middle of a film project or something on camera, I crave theater because it's, when you're doing a play, you've got to be in the moment, you've got to be present and listening, and it is really, while it's a collaborative process, while theater takes so many different people to make happen, film as well, it really at the end of the day is the performers on stage, making believe, right? Film is really the director's medium. So regardless of any work you do on camera, at the end of the day, like, you're subject to whatever happens in an editing room,
Yeah.
in a dark room, and so it becomes very difficult to focus in on controlling what you do. I mean, it's kind of a balance. They both have their benefits. I love theater. I will always gravitate towards theater, though, and I could die happy if I just did theater for the rest of my life. Absolutely.
Impressive. A lot of people.
I won't make money, but whatever.
No, you'll be poor, but it's impressive. Because, that's why it's impressive, because it means it comes from the heart. When you pick that one, especially.
Yeah, yeah. When you give into this life, you sort of, I mean, I catch myself all the time in these moments of, I have a bunch of friends who have, normal lives, where they go, go about their day and, they go home and they have hobbies and such. But like my career, my craft, my work is not a hobby. It is my life on top of whatever I need to do to sustain that. So a lot of sacrifices. But yeah, you just let adrenaline and passion kind of drive you. You have to. If you can't, then you shouldn't be doing this.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So I'd wanted to also say that I was kind of really thrilled and proud that you agreed to do the interview, because we met on Friend Movement, and I know you're a big activist, and we know you from HBO, from Private Romeo. Some people might have seen Room at the End of the Hall, which I actually really loved. And basically, I'm proud to call you a friend as well.
Me too.
Just want
Thanks.
to let you know that. And your production company, the Wild Root Company, the mission of it is very interesting to me, because it says that it's to champion emerging storytellers. So can you just tell us a little bit more about that, how you got involved with it, and what it is that you are working on now?
Sure. Well, Wild Root basically started as with Room at the End of the Hall, actually, and I had a really great run of doing projects, and Private Romeo had just come out on DVD, and I was doing a lot of Shakespeare and a lot of film and pilots and stuff and whatever, and I suddenly started to realize that while all of these projects were great, there was this one particular project that I'd always been kind of dying to work on, which was this play called Room at the End of the Hall, which is a good friend of mine had written, and it's a really terrific two person play. It's about two brothers, and I just said, I want to produce it. I want to figure out how to produce a play in New York, and I mean, obviously, much easier said than done. But I basically spent about 6 months trying to get this play produced, and I raised some money for it, and we did a lot of, sort of a little PR campaign, and realized that it's extremely difficult not only for playwrights to get their work done, but if you're a playwright, a brand new playwright with a brand new play, it's even more difficult. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing goes for filmmakers too. How difficult is it to get your work produced? Good work too. There are so many wonderful stories out there. And I said, well, I really want to become a part of what I noticed was a movement in this country and around the world of a lot of smaller institutions, smaller arts organizations that were championing emerging storytellers, emerging writers with new plays. The larger institutions are less likely to do that. Larger regional theaters, larger companies. I mean, forget about it on Broadway. It's very rare. I mean, like there are.
The question is always who's in it, who's involved in the project. Like, they want a name right away.
Exactly.
A big name.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are a lot of producers who will say, I will not take a risk on a play if the playwright has not been produced in New York and is not well known. I mean, you just have to have all these things. And granted, like, I had a great conversation with a good artist friend of mine, a talented guy, who I'm actually working on a project with Wild Root. And we were talking about the fact that, like, Broadway really is pop culture, like it always has been. And so why are we trying to get, like, X Factors on Broadway? Why are we trying to do, like, new cutting edge work? Granted, we should always be trying to do that to get it into the mainstream, but, like, why are we doing this to ourselves, Anyway, I think there's some great examples. But so I started this company that basically would be an umbrella for a number of emerging storytellers. Anybody who had any, talented playwrights, talented filmmakers who had interesting ideas that I wanted to sort of help make happen. And I have a really great facility with helping to make work happen. Well, lo and behold, I suddenly got inundated with work, which was great, but it became extremely overwhelming because you become so passionate about all of these different projects. I mean, Room at the End of the Hall is just one of them. We're working on another project. It's an adaptation of a F. Scott Fitzgerald novel called The Beautiful and the Damned, which is now called Gloria. We're working on another play called The Beast in My Pants, which is a terrific.
That's
Reading
an
of it,
interesting title, that's for sure.
amazing. We actually got it's great. We did a reading of it with Julie Halston and Patrick Kerr, and like they just totally killed it. It was great. So we're trying to develop that piece too. And then this other piece we're working on right now, which is this one-man show called. I actually shouldn't probably say too much about it, but it's by this terrific poet, slam poet. He's just an After Midnight on Broadway. His name is Daniel J. Watts. And he tells stories through slam poetry, and it's all about, Tommy, you'd love this. I'm sure you too with Dana. It's all about positivity and like spreading love through spoken word and, taking, stories from his childhood and sort of bringing them into the audience perspective. It's really cool stuff, and that's going to happen next year. So really awesome, but extremely overwhelming. And that has to do with the climate that we're in. We're still in a very, very difficult, obviously, social and economic climate where it's just hard to produce new work, and it's really hard to produce and develop work. And so Wild Root is just a little piece of the pie to help a few projects move forward, I hope. But it's been great. There's been a ton of support for it, and I'm really honored and grateful to still 9 months out be, working really, really hard nonstop.
It sounds cool, but it sounds like hard work too. But again, that goes back to love. If you love it,
yeah, you gotta love it.
Exactly. If you love what you're doing, it works.
Yeah, man, it's cool.
I always say, if you love what you're doing, then it's really not hard work in that capacity. It's hard work, but you love it, so it's enjoyable.
You wake up every day, and the first thing you want to do is just answer those emails.
Yep.
Return phone calls. It's cool. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
Who's next? Who's going next? Who's going to be next? It's exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. Wow.
And Tommy was there for this reading. I did. We did a room at the end of the hall. We did
phenomenal.
short 9-hour workshop, and we're still developing the play. We're talking with fingers crossed. We will see more of the play next year, early next year. Fingers crossed.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Great. That's fantastic. I love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's all great, and it's just phenomenal work. And I love the positivity and the inspiration and motivation behind it all. As far as future projects, as far as film and television, do you have anything going on there? And where can people find you on social media and follow you and get updates and all that good stuff?
Sure, totally. Well, the next project I'm working on, I actually go into rehearsals on Tuesday for it. It's called it's A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's Shakespeare. And it's a return of a production that I did last year. It was a 4-week run of this with this company called Titan Theater Company, and they're in Queens. It's a 9-actor ensemble production of Midsummer. We all play 16 roles, except nobody knows what roles that they're going to play until the audience picks them out of a hat. And it's it's both nerve-wracking and also, it's one of the most exciting projects I've done as an actor because it keeps you on your toes. You have got to be listening and present in every moment. It's an amazing exercise. It's a great ensemble. And the show, before we opened it last year, we had no idea how audiences were going to respond. If we get through the show, craziness. But audiences loved it. We had critics loved it. Sold out run, terrific. And so the company was trying to figure out ways to bring it back. And the company was just announced that they're going to be in residence at the Queens Theater in the Park, which is, I don't want to say it's a little ways away from Manhattan, but it's, you have to spend some time on a train, but definitely well worth the travel. I would love to see
Broadway, the new Broadway.
It's the new Broadway. Crane's business just called Queens the nexus of basically the arts hub, the next arts center of our beautiful city. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. Anybody who watches this, I just encourage you, if you're in New York, to check it out. But
it sounds like whose line is it anyway a little bit.
There definitely are improvisational moments, but it's really it's the text. It's Shakespeare's text. It's Shakespeare's language. And it's just a great fun time because the audience gets to be a crucial part of it. And there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of clenching. And
What part am I going to get? Who am I going to be tonight? Now, can a guy do a female part?
Totally. My favorite was I playing Hermia
Wow.
last year when we did the initial run. And what's so exciting about that is at first the audience they're like, oh my gosh, this is potentially like a gimmick, right? Like the audience, like, oh gosh, here's a guy who's wearing a dress. But if you as the actor commit to the intention and the circumstances, the audience goes right along with for you on this amazing ride. And afterwards, they forget. I hope they forget that you are a man playing a female role. But then again, that's how Shakespeare intended it as well. Shakespeare wrote these roles
For sure.
for men. So it's cool to kind of like go back to the tradition and test it out. And the language, my gosh, the language. Midsummer's so overdone, but the language is in all of his plays. But in this play in particular, it's so colorful and magical and just imaginative. It's amazing. Come on out and see it.
We are coming on Tuesday. That's on Tuesday, right? So we are coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something else.
Tuesday is a short film that I did called English. It's going to be at the Museum of the Moving Image.
Okay, well, we'll be there.
Oh, cool.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was your activism, because I know that you're a vocal and an active activist. We worked on Friend Movement, like I mentioned before, but you're very supportive of the Ali Forney Center for the Homeless LGBTQ Youth. How'd you get involved in that, and why?
Totally. The Ali Forney Center came into my periphery. A good friend of mine is on the board there, and I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about homelessness, let alone LGBTQ homelessness, let alone the Ali Forney Center. And I just started seeing his Facebook posts. And how did I get involved? I can't even remember what my first connection initially with them was. But it was a few years ago, and oh gosh, it's killing me now. What was my first thing? I think it was just him really talking about the Forney Center. And then I started, like, the Huffington Post reported on it or something. And I did a little bit of research, and I read about the Forney Center, and I was like, man, this is a really big deal. There are over 500,000 homeless kids in the United States alone, which is devastating. 40% of those identify as LGBTQ youth. 40% of young people between the ages of 16 and 24. Now, I remember how I got involved. I had just gotten back from Washington, D.C. This was last year, and my friend who's on the board invited me to a little fundraiser that they were doing at Dylan's Candy Bar. And just to be around a bunch of the administration and Carl Siciliano, and hearing him talk about not only just where this comes from, where he started the Forney Center after Ali Forney was killed on 131st Street, who was a transgender young man. And so Carl started this organization that basically helps young people who have been kicked out of their homes unjustly, ages 16 to 24, and basically provides them with a support system. Now, the main issue that we're encountering is that in our society is that there's so much amazing movement for the LGBTQ community. There's marriage equality. What do we have? Like 20 states now, I think, including Washington, D.C. People are like, oh my gosh, come out, it's great. There's a Trevor Project, there's a Friend Movement, there's your organization, Dana, Bullies Keep Out, not necessarily that that's LGBTQ oriented, but it's like, it's supportive, right?
Well, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for that, and it's a big part of Bullies Keep Out. And I do all types of volunteering and work for, No Hate and, all those movements out there. So I'm a big advocate for that. So it is incorporated a lot.
Rock on. That's great. So the issue, though, is that there are still ideological mindsets out there, and a lot of them are religious-minded. I won't point fingers at all, but There was a great article that's currently now circulating in the most recent issue of Rolling Stone magazine called "The Forsaken," and it's all about these young kids who are straight A students. They're, they've got great academic records. They're good, reliable kids. They come out to their families because of all this support and this amazing celebration of who you are, and their families throw them right out onto the curb.
Yep.
And that is unjust. And it breaks my heart that there's not enough government support for something like that. And in fact, even in 2013, the New York State cut their funding in half for homeless young people. So anyway, now let's talk about New York City, which is what the Ali Forney Center specifically covers. There are 3,600 about 3,600 homeless kids in New York City alone. Breaks my heart. 1,600 of them identify as LGBTQ. 40%, back to 40%, about 40 to 50% of those say that they have been abused or kicked out or sexually molested. So what the Forney Center does, it's amazing. And they don't have enough beds. They have less than 100 beds to serve 1,600 homeless kids. They have a wait list of almost 220 in their drop-in center every night. They provide transitional support for some of their clients, however many they can. 85% of their funding goes to serving their clients. Only about 11% goes to administrative costs. That's unheard of for a nonprofit organization. So what have I done? I don't work for the Ali Forney Center. I have just become very, very impassioned and rooted in this cause. And so part of what through my production company, Wild Root, we did a benefit for the Forney Center in January, which is also a premiere of a screenplay that we've been working on. And this project that I'm working on with Daniel Watts, we've gotten Daniel Watts involved in the Forney Center. So he's going to be performing opposite Leah Delaria at their Place at the Table benefit. I don't know if I've answered the question. I just spouted off a ton of statistics. But
You did. Trust me, you did a very good job.
Oh, you did. You definitely, yeah. You made a good point for it, for sure.
Okay, great. AliForneyCenter.org. Just learn about it or read the Rolling Stone article or Google it. Find a bunch of stuff on Huffington Post. It is a national crisis, and there are a ton of national crises out there, but this seems to me to be the one that I want to give my heart and soul to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And as far as you, real quick before we wrap up, where can everybody find you on social media?
Sure. I am. I'll write it down, or will you guys put it up on the screen?
We can do that as well. And we're very talented.
Yeah, I know you can. Wait, we can totally do it.
Or we could get somebody else to do it. Maybe not us, but we'll get it done.
All right. I am at Sean SEAN Hudock HUD1DOCK on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, same handle. And I have a website, SeanHudock.com. I'm like extremely annoying on Facebook about promoting whatever I'm doing, but
it's not annoying at all.
Whatever.
That's how I found out about the thing for Tuesday. Like, if we don't do it, then we don't know.
So you don't know. Then you don't know.
Exactly.
So like, really? But whatever. I mean, you have to be. And then Wild Root, my company is wildroot.org, and we're always doing, most of our events are free. We have a ton of free readings. I encourage anybody who's looking to get involved in the development of new work to come and check it out.
Cool. So there you have it.
Sean
Hudock, the actor, the activist, the man, the legend, soon to be legend, right? That's Hudock with 1D, like One Direction kids. You can remember that
one. Nice reference, Tommy.
Well, the kids won't know unless we tell them, and
Well, we didn't have any pop culture in here, so that is the problem. It's socially devoted. You guys are amazing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for being here.